and welcome to my video of my webpage. This is my online unit that I created for my Year 9 History class. It was a complete one-term unit. The feedback that I've had from students has been overwhelmingly positive, although I temper that with some of my own reservations. I would say that it's been incredibly positive towards it and working really hard. Middle of the class had some students lagging, and I know for some lessons they've been a bit off task, and the bottom students have also shown some reservations in that at times they have felt like they were lacking in that continual teacher reinforcement that they would get if it was a normal classroom situation. However, I do really like it. And I do agree with Andrew that this is a paradigm shift for the students, and of course there is going to be some issues in implementation. And for my second term, which I will begin with open learning in a couple of weeks' time, I'm definitely going to be using it again. However, this time with this same class, less of a self-paced unit and more teacher-directed and structured unit, but however the work is all still going to be up there. I'm really proud of this unit. It took me a really long time to make, and I really hope that you get something from having a look at it. So the unit that we are doing is Investigating Australia's Physical Environment, and here are all of our modules. I've structured this in a way that when they go on to the next section, they have a check your work section where they have to come and see me and show me the work that they've done, so that I can have a look at the quality of the work that they're producing and hurry people up that are taking far too long. So in our introduction, just a quick introduction with letting them know how it worked. Then we had a glossary of terms task where they copied the glossary of terms, and then there was a differentiated task that they had to do based on the levels that they're at, and also something fun where they had to make a joke. And the best joke, or the one that made me laugh the most, got a merit. And we had some really funny jokes here that I was able to take back to the class and engage them that way. The purpose behind this particular joke task was not to get them to write a joke, but to get them to get used to looking at other people's comments. I thought if there was a joke there and they were able to look at other people's jokes, that they would go back and have a look and see what the people that had written as a learning exercise, so that they got into the habit of seeing what other people thought. Otherwise, I could see them just forgetting about the comment section altogether. My favourite joke was by a guy named Michael, which I thought was pretty funny. And his joke was, as you can see here, what did one ocean say to another? Nothing. They just waved. I liked that one. Made me laugh. Next, we moved into locating Australia in the world. The learning intentions and success criteria is something that we do as a system each lesson, and it was something that I was told I had to include if I was going to do this type of learning. The success criteria is supposed to be mutually agreed upon success criteria with the students, and so to get around that, the first two success criteria I gave them, and then the third point for the success criteria I had students agree on themselves and write in their workbooks. It's not something that I was going to check, and I can't imagine that many students actually did that, but it ticked a box for me, and so I just went with it. Some information and a video and some exercises to do there. The students really liked the videos that I included for them, and I concluded a great deal of videos, and I did stress to the students that this allowed the work to be differentiated. So if you needed to go back to a video, if you needed to pause it while you were doing something, or if you needed to, rewatch it 3 times to get it, then that they were encouraged to do that in order to be more self-sufficient during their learning. And if they saw a video and they didn't get it, then they were encouraged to go and find another video. So here we've got an overview of Australia, and they had a task where they had to write a paragraph. The learning support unit really liked the online unit and the structure of the online unit, and one of the things that I encouraged the learning support students to do was to use the collaborative focus of this unit to help them in their work. So Riley, that you can see here, she's a learning support student, And I encouraged her, before she put in her paragraph, to go and have a look at some of the other students. And I pointed out some of the ones that she should have a look at through my comments. So the great paragraph that I've given her in terms of feedback here, I did for other students, so that she would know which students to go have a look at, so that she could model her writing off the best students in the class. And this she found really, really useful. We then did some work on geographical dimensions, and this was a video that I made, so it was a PowerPoint presentation with some audio over the top. And then they had some work in their textbooks, so no comments here. So they've done that. They got to their first work check, so they had to come and see me and show me what they had done so far, so I could make sure that all of the work was done and the quality that it was done to. We moved on to looking at Aboriginal perspectives next. So this was the section that we looked at, the Aboriginal perspective of Australia's origins. It gave them some information. There's quite a lot of reading to do, and I think that it's still really important that they do some reading. They had to watch a video and create a 5-point summary in their books, and then they had to find another creation story and watch the video. Then they had to write down the name of the story and the element of creation that it covered in the comment section, and then they had to find somebody else's video or find somebody else's comments and have a look at that, which they did, and they found some really interesting similarities in between their stories, which was great. Moved on from the Aboriginal perspective to having a look at the geographical perspective. This can be quite difficult, so we started with a story of how it didn't happen, and this was a part of the movie The Ice Age, which, although is not how it happened, is a bit of fun, but also it gives them an idea that the plates were actually moving at one specific time. So after we had a bit of fun and looked at trying to get that concept of moving plate tectonics, they then moved down into some things that were a little bit more difficult. They had pictures as well as information. Again, another video then to supplement their understanding. Again, the learning support unit really liked the fact that I was supplementing information and videos. So if they didn't get something through the information, they could get it through videos. Mountain building was the next section that we had a look at. So we looked at the different types of videos, information and images, and so some photos of Australian ones. And these are videos that I just found on the internet. I didn't believe in recreating the wheel. If I could find something that served my purpose, I used that. If I couldn't, I made my own. Their task was then to draw the diagrams of each of the 3 types in their workbooks, and then to explain the differences. And again, using correct paragraph structure. You can see here that some of their paragraphs began to get extremely small. So this is what I was talking about when I said the middle of the class started to get a little bit lax in the middle of the unit, and here I had to have a conversation with many of them in the next work check about the fact that their paragraphs were becoming a bit too small. And again, this is just part of the implementation of a new type of teaching, and I have no issue with that. So they had the next work check. We moved on to looking at Australia's major landforms and draining bases. Again, this is a video that I made because I couldn't find anything which suited my purpose. Then we moved on to topographic maps. This is a skill that many people have a lot of trouble with, the students, when they're learning topographical maps. And I believe that this is one of the real positives of using an online unit, because next term, when they have their exam where they have to apply their skills of geographic maps under an exam condition, they can come back here in their preparation to look at how to do it. So for every skill, I included a video. So they had to watch the video, which is an introduction, and then they had a handout. And the handout had a step-by-step on how to do it. And also then they had some activities that they had to do. So then they had to do gradient, there's a video, read the handout, complete the activity. There's some information on bearings. Bearings are quite difficult. This website I found allowed them to complete the activities online and get instant feedback of whether or not they were correct. So they could put the do the task, put the answer in, and then be told straight away whether it was right or wrong, which I thought was really useful. The only problem that I have with that, I don't know how many students did it because it's an online thing. Cross sections here, a video, and then doing the handout. Here again I found another implementation issue because I found a lot of the students were trying to shortcut by going straight to the handouts, coming to me saying that they didn't know how to do the work. And I said to them, well, have you watched the video? And often they had not, and so I had to redirect them back to the video and asking them to complete this unit in a linear process so that they were doing each of the steps in order, otherwise they weren't going to get the maximum impact out of the unit. And there were many students who were trying to shortcut the unit, but great videos that I hope at least some stage they'll go back to. So again, they had some questions on aspect, area and grid reference, watching a video, and then completing the activities. Climate and weather was the next page that they had to look at. So they had to watch a video and then fill out a table. Synoptic charts and how to read them. There's a video here on teaching them what each of the aspects of synoptic charts mean. And then there was a handout that they had, but the typing in the links was problematic, so I did include the handout so that they could click on the link and go straight to each of the bits of information from the Bureau of Meteorology so that they could complete the handout. The handout was given, all of their handouts were given to them in a manila folder so that they could work through them at their own pace, but they got a digital copy here too. Climate graphs and how to draw climate graphs as well, and then they had a handout where they were to create one and practice that skill. This information here on flora and fauna the students didn't actually get to. I guess I overestimated how quickly they would work through the unit, and so they didn't actually get to this information, but there were some handouts there for them to do. Australia's natural resources, they didn't get there either, but they had some information that they had to put into a table, and then they also, as you can see here, had to write a paragraph explaining what energies Australia should focus on in the future and why, but as you can see they didn't get to that. We then moved on to natural hazards and natural disasters, which was their assessment task. So at some stage I did say to them, I need you to stop where you're up to and move to natural hazards so that you can be prepared for the assessment task. And so then they moved through this section here. We first did an overview of all of the different types of assessment, of all of the different types of hazards in Australia, and this is modelled on what they needed to do for their assessment task. So I did cyclones for them, and then they had to search and do some work on some other hazards in Australia. So some information here, and they had a couple of tasks to do in their workbooks and on handouts, but nothing to be put in here. Cyclones, they had to create a PowerPoint presentation, and I created a model one that you can see here, and this is a video that I made so that I could model to them exactly what their assessment task should look like. There was another video there just about cyclones as well to give them some information. The information here about cyclones, again modelling on what they needed to do for their assessment task. Then they had some tasks to complete. They did get through this information quite well and quite quickly, but they didn't have to put anything in the comments section for this one. And this has now moved on to our next unit, which we will be starting at the beginning of next term. Overall, I've been incredibly impressed with how open learning has worked for me and for my students, and like I said, some implementation issues that are just part of the changing of the way that students are working, and it's going to take them a little while to get used to, and it's going to take me a little while to get used to, and I have no problem with meeting those implementation issues, and I certainly won't disregard working through open learning. And in fact, I've been telling all of my colleagues about it and showing them what I've done, and they're incredibly impressed with how this works for our students, and the engagement is unbelievable. At times it's been a bit boring for me because I've had 31 students incredibly engaged in what they're doing in the class, and I've been sitting there waiting for people to ask me questions, but because of the way that I've structured it, I didn't have people coming and asking me questions, which was a little bit of an issue as well. Some of the learning support students felt a little bit intimidated because everybody in the class was so silent and working so well that they felt that they couldn't really ask questions. And so after that was raised to me, I then had to make an extra special effort to go around to the students and to tackle questions with them and engage with them that way. But I really like it, and like I said, I will be using it for my next unit, which is changing Australian communities. However, it is going to be a little bit more structured in the way that we do it and a little bit more teacher directed, but still student-centered in that the students will be engaging with the content online and will be working collaboratively, but in terms of timing and giving that little bit more verbal feedback than what I had been doing, I will be doing that more in the next unit. So I thank Andrew very much for putting this unit together. I've really enjoyed my time learning about open learning, and it's definitely changed the way I'm teaching. And I continue to evolve as a teacher. Thank you to the unit, and I hopefully will see you again in another unit on open learning in the future. Thank you very much.